Hello, I'm Jeff Paur, senior writer with RealTime Fantasy Sports. Welcome to another RealTime Fantasy Sports show, and we are doing our position previews for the coming fantasy football season. We've knocked out several of them already, and we are up to the tight end spot. And for the tight end, we thought we'd bring in none other than the tight end whisperer and contributor for RT Sports, Howard Bender. Howard, thanks so much for joining me, Mr. Tight End Whisperer, to knock out this all-important preview.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, man. Every time I get a chance to talk tight ends, promote the tight end position, I'm here. So appreciate you having me here, Jeff, as always. So yeah, I'm ready.
All right. Howard, this tight end position, last year, people were so upset with the start of the season. It was just awful. Awful. So before we get into specific players, do you think there's more hope for this year? Do you think there's going to be anything like we saw at the beginning of last year?
I feel like we are going to see some things that are very similar to the beginning of last year. We've elevated the top tight ends to the point where, again, it's everybody's hoping to grab that, Travis Kelce. Will Brock Bowers be Travis Kelce and be a stalwart in the first round? Trey McBride, second, third round. So I think that people still think that they're getting like a huge advantage, but the problem is that the top tight ends who have performed, we've seen a lot of one and done over the years. Very rarely do you get a Travis Kelce or a Jimmy Graham who just sits there at the top for a long period of time. So we see a lot of one and dones with a lot of tight ends. The problem that I have though is that, what makes somebody a really strong option like a Brock Bowers? You were getting him in the 6th or 7th round last year. Right.
Yeah.
What happened to Sam Laporta? So I mean, it was, so you're really kind of running that fine line. And just based on the tight end ADP right now, I do think there are some people who are going to be disappointed.
So let's jump right into that. So Brock Bowers, Trey McBride. We've watched a lot of drafts together, Howard. Bowers is a second round pick. Sometimes McBride's the end of second round, but mostly a third round pick. Are you paying up for either? It sounds like you're probably not.
I'm definitely not paying up for Bowers. I did it in the Fantasy Sports and Gaming Association draft, which was a 14-teamer, and I was picking on the wheel. And I was like, you know what? I haven't taken any Brock Bowers. Let me see what the build looks and feels like afterwards. And I didn't like it. I just didn't like it. I think that I like the position deep enough that, there are guys at ADP where Bowers and McBride fall that I just prefer better, like wide receivers and running backs, guys who I think, will also be consistent. I think both guys will be consistent performers, but am I getting that much of an advantage? Are they going to be that better, much better over the running backs or the wide receivers who I can take there? Now, if McBride falls to the 4th round, middle of the 4th, then I might consider it because he's now done it for a couple of seasons in a row, as opposed to Bowers, who was the rookie last year. So McBride in the 4th, mid-late 4th, I'd be intrigued if I'm very happy with my running backs or wide receivers from the early part. But then I also know that I'm not getting an elite quarterback at that level. So it's give and take really with the elite tight ends. I think I'm out.
Yeah, if you want to get a elite tight end, you probably can't get an elite QB. That's a great point. I'm kind of like you. I think I maybe have one share of Bowers just to see how it played out, and I'm not sure I like that team. I think I will take more chances on McBride just because I think the value is a little better in the 3rd round because I think they're actually very similar in value overall. I mean, just 2 touchdowns from McBride last year was a big issue with him and his numbers not being as good as Bowers. So he just racked up the catches. I think he'll do it again. So I might take a few more chances on McBride, but I'm probably like you, and I'm going to wait a little bit more and get some of these other options. We'll jump right into that. So after the first 6 tight ends are gone, I think, that first 6 is, Bowers, McBride, Kittle, Kelce, Laporta, Hockenson. I think those are the clear, the first tier. And then after that, there are a lot of similar players you can get. And I want to know who are some of your targets out of that group if you want to wait.
So this is actually my wheelhouse of tight ends of who I'm taking in drafts right now. Evan Engram, first and foremost. He's coming off the board 7th round, 8th round in a lot of cases because I think people are still thinking about injured Evan Engram last year. They're not thinking about the year before when he broke out in Jacksonville. They're thinking about Evan Engram from the days of the Giants. If you look at Sean Payton and Joe Lombardi's offense, and a lot of people have heard me say this already, they use something which is called a joker. And that joker is either a running back or a tight end who plays like a wide receiver, who can sit there, who can pass block, line up in the slot, line up on the outside, somebody who can run clean routes, somebody who's got good hands, right? We've seen Jimmy Graham in this role. You remember Marquez Colston from New Orleans. He actually started off as a tight end and was given that joker role. And then everybody was like, this dude's a wide receiver. And so when you see stuff like that happen, when they get that, now it could be a running back. And some people are like, well, RJ Harvey is going to be could be in that joker role. Not if you're still honing your pass blocking. Maybe it comes later on down the road, right? But focus on being a good running back, focus on your pass blocking there. So it's going to fall to Evan Engram. I think he's going to get targets galore. The last time they had a clean tight end joker role was Jimmy Graham, and he was top 3 in targets for 4 straight seasons, and was one of the most elite tight ends. So Engram is my top guy that I go after. I also get a lot of Bo Nix, so I like pairing the two of them up. But then I'll fall to Njoku. If I don't get Engram, I mean, listen, it doesn't matter if it's Shedeur Sanders, it's Joe Flacco. The lean on the tight end position in Cleveland is substantial. And Njoku is a fantastic pass catcher, contested catches always, and sideline routes. He does such a good job. So those are my 2 guys in the middle tier that I kind of hang out with, and I probably have the most shares of them.
So a couple guys, I'll go different. I have a lot of shares of those players as well. But, man, I really like Mark Andrews this year, just for the fact that I feel like people are still caught up on his awful start to last year. I think they're just really just sour on him because of that. But he had double-digit fantasy points 10 of his last 12 games. He was huge down the stretch. Isaiah Likely's hurt. He could be out to start the year a couple games. That's going to help Andrews even more. So for the value, I still think he's a great low-end number 1 tight end. I'm all over that at this point. I like Jake Ferguson too. I know that they brought in Pickens, but I still think Ferguson's going to have a rebound season in that Cowboys offense, and they're going to throw the ball all day because they can't run the ball. That running game is going to be awful, in my opinion. I think they're just going to throw. So I think Ferguson's going to rebound this year and have a big season. So those are 2 of my targets. I love the Engram call for you as well, Howard. I think you didn't even mention that. Look at those pass catching options after Cortland Sutton. They don't have much. I don't trust any. Yeah, exactly. I don't trust any of those options after Sutton. So I think Ingram's going to have a huge season as well.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one there. Marvin Mims, come on. I love the Andrews call here because what everybody seems to forget is about 3 weeks before the season started last year, Mark Andrews got into a car accident. He got shook. He got concussed. He got shook. He was just banged up, right? His back, his shoulders, everything about that. So that kind of contributed to the slow start. And then everybody jumped onto the Isaiah Likely train. Big role reversal for these guys. And we know that Lamar's got that rapport with Mark Andrews. So I dig that for sure. And then I like Ferguson as a good high floor, safe play, right? He's not like your big upside guy. He's just a good, safe dude.
Yep. So rookie tight ends, they have led fantasy scoring each of the last 2 seasons. It used to be a position where people faded rookie tight ends. They said it was hard to learn. They're not just good. They got to be able to block. A lot of the guys are more pass catchers, but it's changed. So can that happen again? Can we see Loveland or Warren or somebody else? Can they lead fantasy tight end in scoring again? And overall, what do you just think about this rookie class, Howard?
I don't necessarily know if they're going to lead. I do like the rookie class. I think that Loveland is very talented, and I like the fact that Ben Johnson equated him to Sam Laporta. But he's on the slow learning curve right now with that Bears offense and the fact that he had shoulder surgery. I think he emerges as a strong pass catching option. But lead the league, that I'm not so sure about. And same with Tyler Warren. I think he's super talented. The quarterback situation is just a hot mess right now in Indianapolis. So I'll tell you what, I think those two guys, as far as good rookie tight ends, I think they're a fair price at their ADP. But if I'm really going to dig in for the rookie class here, I'm going much later in the draft. I'm going Mason Taylor and I'm going Elijah Arroyo. Now, I know Arroyo's got AJ Barner, who he's competing with, but Arroyo profiles so much better as a pass catcher. We saw him do that in college. Barner can block a lot more there. So I think that, because I think Kubiak's going to use a lot of two tight end sets. We'll see both of them on there. So I like Arroyo as like a really late sleeper, but Mason Taylor, I know he's dealing with the high ankle sprain right now, but who else is catching passes for the Jets, right? We talked about that in Denver, but you got Garrett Wilson. Josh Reynolds is familiar with the offensive scheme because he played in Detroit under Tanner Engstrand, but there's nobody else there. Mason Taylor, strong pass catcher, should be fine for the regular season. It's a free pick at the end. So if you get yourself like a safe tight end, you've always heard me talk about the yin yang draft philosophy that if you're not grabbing an elite guy, grab yourself two guys who are sort of different in the way they produce. So if you get a Jake Ferguson, who's a good high floor guy, good safe play, then later on in your draft, grab Mason Taylor because that upside is through the roof right now. He could be the number 2 targeted pass catcher for that team. Say whatever you want about Justin Fields. If the dude throws for 2,500 yards, right, 1,000 of them are going to go to Garrett Wilson. Where's the other 1,500 going?
Yep. That's fair. Yeah, I like the rookie class a lot as well. I'm just not sure Loveland or Warren's going to be able to lead them in scoring like Laporta and Bowers did the last 2 years. I still think they're good. And like you mentioned, I like the price tag for a lot of these guys. You're not really paying up, and I think there definitely is upside there. I really like Warren. I'm intrigued by him, but like you mentioned, I do not like that QB situation at all. That's my concern there. I think he might have the higher ceiling than Loveland, but I think he's riskier because of the QB. And as you mentioned, Mason Taylor, Arroyo, those are two guys I like taking chances on. If I'm going to use high draft capital on a tight end, which I don't do a lot, but I will definitely take a chance on either of those guys. I have a lot of shares of Taylor right now, so I'm kind of intrigued to see what he does.
All right, of those four, look ahead to 2026 right now. Which one of those four is going to be the second or the third round pick that everybody's going to get? Fish hooked on. It's going to be one of them.
You're right. It's going to happen. That's a good point. I think Bowers, I looked up, I just did an article on most owned players, and I looked up the ADPs last year. Bowers was 111. So he was like an 8th or 9th round pick. Yeah, that's kind of where Loveland and Warren are going for the most part. So
absolutely. Here we go.
There we go. You're going to be another one next year. Should be good. So let's talk about some undervalued players. Everybody likes to get a value, and I think there's definitely some guys there. I think Mark Andrews is, but overall, who do you think are maybe some undervalued tight ends right now that you want to maybe target?
One of my absolute favorite late round plays after the Lovelands and the Warrens is Hunter Henry. People just keep ignoring him, right? He had the 5th highest target rate last season, and that's before Josh McDaniels even showed up into Patriots camp. You've got a really interesting situation going on there because Stephon Diggs is going to be the featured guy, right? Kyle Williams is a fantastic option opposite him because he can also play that X receiver role. Then you've got Trevion Henderson lining up everywhere. Hunter Henry, that's like your bread and butter, over the middle type guy, great red zone option. He's going to move the chains. I mean, he didn't have the targets that a bunch of the top guys had, but he still had a high target share on that team. He's reliable, and Drake May's going to lean on him, and we're going to see him lean on him. This isn't going to be 1,000 yards and 10 touchdowns, but if you can get a Hunter Henry 600 yards, 650 yards, if he gets 5 or 6 touchdowns, dude, that's top 10 tight ends.
Yeah, I like Hunter Henry as well. I think he could be a good value play for sure. And my pick is a guy that I was totally avoiding after he got traded, but his value's fallen off the cliff, and it's Jonnu Smith. His ADP right now is 146. It's fallen 6 spots in the last week. Who's going to catch passes after DK Metcalf? I just think for the value, I might take a chance on him. They don't have many great pass catchers in that offense. Aaron Rodgers is there. He's going to throw the ball a lot. Smith caught 88 passes. He had some success with Arthur Smith as his offensive coordinator. So I just think for the value, I think people are kind of just really dismissing him after this trade because they don't like the offense, and who knows? And Pat Freiermuth is there, but I still think Smith's going to be on the field, and I don't mind him at all at that value, quite frankly.
I mean, Arthur Smith loves Jonnu Smith, loves him. You'll probably see a week 1 5-yard rushing touchdown for him, right? I mean, that's what you're going to end up seeing. Freiermuth gets in Rodgers' ear though a lot because their lockers are actually right next to each other's. But yeah, I mean, like you said, I mean, where are you going after Metcalf? Calvin Austin? It's really not a strong receiving core. So I agree with you that if they're going to line up Jonnu Smith, line him up in the slot, and just really have him, kind of step up. But you're right. Free pick.
Yeah.
Why not take that shot?
Why not take a chance on a guy that caught 88 passes last year? So we've talked about players we like. We're targeting rookies, you name it. But how about a stay away tight end? Is there any guy that you're looking at this year and you're like, I don't want any part of him. I don't have any shares of him. Anybody you're just really kind of scared of?
It's not that I'm scared. It's that it never pans out. TJ Hawkinson. Right. When at the start of this show, you said, right, those are your top 5, top 6 tight ends. And Hawkinson was your cutoff point right there.
Yeah.
Why are we taking a guy who never plays a full season? Right. I mean, he's never had big outlandish numbers. He's never had that production that we're like really banking on. And now this Jordan Addison suspension has elevated him to the point because people think that, well, Addison's going to be suspended. So for the first 3 weeks, Hawkinson's going to ball out. Dude's going to see double-digit targets. I'm not so sure about that, right? Jalen Naylor is going to be my min-priced play for week 1 DFS, right? So we're playing DFS here on RT Sports, buddy. I guarantee you Jalen Naylor is in one of my week 1 lineups for that. But so like Hawkinson, he played 10 games last year, 15 the year before that, 10 the year before that, 7 the year before that. Why are we putting so much trust in him when we really just haven't gotten the delivery from him? Is it the hope that one day it'll pan out? I just don't necessarily know if like a heavy target share for the tight end is really the kind of, offense that we're seeing from Kevin O'Connell. So I think maybe he kind of fools everybody for the first 3 weeks, and then he probably gets hurt and he misses a couple of games. Then he comes back and he's like, meh. And then he has a good game. So yeah, if I'm taking a tight end up at that point, I want somebody who's going to produce for me week in, week out. The price tag's too high on Hawkinson for me, so I'm out.
So it's kind of funny you mentioned him because I sent you these topics and I'm going through my picks, and then you sent me who you were going to pick, and I was trying to decide between Hawkinson and this player that I ended up choosing because you took Hawkinson. So I'm out on Hawkinson as well. And this player's he's not as highly drafted, but Dalton Kincaid, I'm just starting to not understand the love he's getting again. He is moving up draft boards. He's starting to get into that Jake Ferguson territory more. And he was a bust last year. Everybody loved him. I was one of them who was tooting his horn. I really wanted him on a lot of my teams. I took a lot of draft capital in him last year, and he burnt me. And I'm just not taking that chance again. I don't know what's changed from this year to last year, from last year to this year. They've added more weapons offensively, if anything, in Buffalo. I think Kincaid could have some big games, don't get me wrong, but I don't think I want any part of him after last year. I just don't see a sudden huge change in him becoming that impact tight end that I think a lot of people are hoping happens.
This is why you and I work very well together, Jeff, because I was actually wavering between Dalton Kincaid and TJ Hawkinson, but I thought my boy Andrew Cooper over at Fantasy Alarm, I didn't want to hurt his feelings too much with the Dalton Kincaid hate, but I've kind of talked about this a ton already. I'm with you completely. Yeah, everybody's going to blame his injury for last year. He was never healthy the entire time. That's what everybody's saying out of Buffalo, right?
Yep.
91 targets in his rookie season, that he's going back to that. Is he though? Is he? Because I mean, listen, 71 targets last year for him. But you're right. What Joe Brady does in this offense, and now you've got Khalil Shakir, Elijah Moore, Curtis Samuel, Joshua Palmer, and then Keon Coleman's your one field stretcher. But you've got these four receivers who do the whole like interchangeable yards after the catch, intermediate routes, underneath work there. And then you splash in a little Dawson Knox as well. Like, where are the targets coming for Dalton Kincaid? Where are we really believing that this is going to be some sort of a breakout? I'm with you. I've avoided him. And you know what? I hope that he does succeed because I like the player himself. I just don't necessarily know if this scheme is really going to be tailored for him.
Yeah, he is super talented. I think he could definitely do well if he got the looks, which is not sure it's happening. So let's talk about some last topic, late round dart throws. So you're going to take a chance on someone. You kind of mentioned a couple of the rookies. They're kind of free picks as well. But is there any guys who just throwing trying to catch some fire there late in the draft? Any late round options for you really like?
Well, I did say that Mason Taylor and Elijah Arroyo are definitely the guys who I go after for the most part. Like that's my late round move. So if I'm looking for, if you want me to throw another late name out there, I will throw out Chigakonkwo, simply because, and I didn't send this to you, and I'm wondering by the look on your face, did I steal your guy again?
No. He is one guy that I have taken some chances on. That was another. It was close. Yeah. I like him better this year. Better quarterback situation, and he played well at the end of last year too, if you remember.
Yeah, definitely. And again, so you've got Calvin Ridley. Tyler Lockett does not look good. Okonkwo is a big-bodied wide receiver. He's a good target, but he's got good hands and he's got some speed. So I think, a much better QB situation here. And we know that rookie quarterbacks tend to lean on their tight ends. So Chigakonkwo is another name that I'm pulling out of.
Yeah, I'm like you. I have Arroyo and Taylor as definitely late round targets, but another name I'll give you is Jatavion Sanders, who is he's turning some heads in camp a little bit and seems to have taken a step forward. Bryce Young looks much better. You're hearing great reports about him. I just like that entire offense a lot more this year when it comes to throwing the ball. And Sanders is super free pick there late in drafts. He's hardly getting drafted at all, but I think the potential's there for him to have a breakout season. Just a really athletic, big tight end, could do well in the red zone, even if he doesn't rack up the catches. So I like some Sanders late in drafts.
Yeah. It's a free pick. There's a lot of buzz on him. I'm not going to say it's big fantasy pushing him because a couple of the people who I love talking to about tight ends, are kind of pushing him as well. So I don't want to, I don't want to disparage the name of Jatavion Sanders because really, in all actuality, he is that guy that you pair up with a Jake Ferguson or a Tucker Kraft, right? Because there is upside to Jatavion Sanders and it costs you nothing. If he doesn't work out, it's an easy cut.
Exactly. Howard, thanks so much for coming on, talking tight ends with me. I always enjoy talking with you, especially when it comes to the tight end. Appreciate all your insight.
Thank you so much for having me. As always, Jeff, it's been a pleasure. And we've got the whole rest of August to sit here and talk draft stuff, man. I'm super psyched about it. So let's do it.
Exactly. You can read Howard's stuff on our site. The Weekly Bender comes out every Friday. He does a stream with me as well, going over some of our high-stake drafts. You can catch him on SiriusXM Fantasy Radio, Fantasy Alarm. He has RotoBuzz Guy as his Twitter handle. Howard's all over the place. If you want to catch some of his material, you can definitely do that. Just check him out because he has a lot of great stuff. Thanks again, Howard, for coming on. Really appreciate it.
Always a pleasure, Jeff. Thank you so much for having me.
All right. Thanks to everybody out there for watching this episode of the RealTime Fantasy Sports Show. Good luck in all those upcoming drafts. Get into one today on RealTime Fantasy Sports. Go to RTSports.com. All right. Thanks again, everybody. Have a great day.